Good evening and welcome to this telecast of Just the News. I'm Faye D'Souza. Let's get started. We have a lot to work through today. In an affidavit to the Supreme Court, the central government said the differential pricing on the vaccine policy won't affect the end customer or the citizen like you and me because state governments have decided to hand out the vaccine for free anyway. This comes after the Supreme Court had observed that the vaccination policy violates Article 14 and 21 of the Constitution. Now, Article 14 gives us a right to be treated equally by the law and the country, and Article 21 protects our right to life. According to the vaccine policy, state governments pay a different price from the central government, and the Supreme Court wanted to know why that policy exists. The court also asked why AstraZeneca was providing the same vaccine to the US at a far lower price and charging us as Indian citizens much higher. It said the manufacturers are charging you 150, that's the central government, and 300 rupees for the states. Why should we as a nation pay this? The price difference comes up to 30 to 40,000 crore rupees. Now, the central government has responded to it in an affidavit and said both vaccine manufacturers have taken financial risk in developing and manufacturing these vaccines, and therefore it's prudent to take decisions on pricing through negotiations. The centre has also informed the court that due to consultations and persuasion by the central government, both manufacturers, Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute, have declared their respective prices for state governments. It also said that the centre, by conducting informal consultations with vaccine manufacturers, ensured that the price is uniform for all state governments and no state government has to pay higher. The central government also told the Supreme Court that the court should not intervene in the vaccine policy because it might lead to unforeseen circumstances. It also said that it should be left to the government to discharge its executive functions. Now, the centre in its affidavit said, and I quote, "In the context of a global pandemic, where the response and strategy of the nation is completely driven by expert medical and scientific opinion, there is little room for judicial interference. Any overzealous, well-meaning judicial intervention may lead to unforeseen and unintended consequences. In the absence of any expert advice or administrative experience, leaving doctors, scientists, experts and the executive very little room for innovative solutions on the go." Effectively, the centre has argued that if the court actually intervenes in the expert medical and scientific opinion-based strategy of the government, it will actually lead to unforeseen circumstances. Moving on, according to the bulletin by the Delhi government, the city only received 499 MT of oxygen on Saturday compared to the 700 that the Supreme Court had mandated that they should receive every day. The bulletin noted that the average oxygen supplied to Delhi over the last 7 days was 533 metric tons, 76% of the court-mandated supply, alleging effectively that the central government is still not giving the Delhi state what it had promised the Supreme Court that it would. The centre has issued an advisory for mucormycosis, a fungal infection found in COVID patients with uncontrolled diabetes and prolonged ICU stays that may turn fatal if it's not treated. This is also called a black fungus. Now, the advisory said that mucormycosis, if uncared for, can turn fatal. Now, the risk for the disease includes diabetes, immunosuppression by steroids, and prolonged ICU stays. Now, to prevent the disease, the blood glucose level should be monitored post-COVID discharge, and diabetes in patients should be monitored as well. It also said that steroids should be used judiciously. The disease can be managed by controlling diabetes, discontinuing the immunomodulating drugs, and reducing steroids. That's what the advisory says right now. I must warn our audience, the next few stories are extremely distressing, and if you are already in some way facing anxiety, I would recommend you do not watch this video any further. Over 40 decomposed, bloating bodies suspected to be of COVID victims were found floating in the Ganga near Bihar's Buxar district. According to some reports, which said the numbers of the bodies were as high as 100, have been refuted by officials who say that those reports are highly exaggerated. According to the local administration, the bodies have floated down from Uttar Pradesh and they belong to COVID patients whose relatives may have been unable to cremate them or bury them. And this has resulted in a blame game between the administrations of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. According to a report by the Indian Express, residents have said that there's been a shortage of wood and other material required for cremation, and therefore many family members just immerse the bodies in the river and they float up downstream. In Uttar Pradesh's Hamirpur district, several locals have spotted dozens of bodies floating in the Yamuna river. People suspect that the bodies are of COVID patients. According to reports, locals from several rural areas of Kanpur and Hamirpur districts had seen decomposing bodies in the Yamuna river. Local authorities do not have a count on how many people have died of COVID in rural India or in rural Uttar Pradesh. Assistant Superintendent of Police Anup Kumar Singh has been quoted saying 1 or 2 dead bodies are occasionally found in the Yamuna. However, in the time of COVID, there's been a flood of bodies in the river, which is indicative that people are dying in large numbers. At least 7 COVID patients in Hyderabad's King Koti Hospital reportedly passed away due to oxygen shortage on Sunday. The oxygen tanker truck, which was about to arrive, was delayed because the driver apparently lost his way. 80 doctors of Delhi's Saroj hospital have tested positive for COVID, and one very senior surgeon has apparently passed away. According to the India Today, of the 80 doctors, 12 have been admitted to the same hospital for treatment and the rest are in home isolation. The hospital has had to shut its OPD due to the shortage of staff. According to reports, more than 300 doctors and paramedic staff have tested positive so far across Delhi. 18 professors of the Aligarh Muslim University have passed away due to COVID in the last 20 days. According to a report in the print, which quotes Saifi Kidwai, the public relations officer at AMU, who said, "We've lost several of our very senior faculty members. The situation is very alarming here." He also said that over 100 patients are admitted to the university's Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College. As many as 1,952 railway employees have died of coronavirus since March last year, and about 1,000 railway employees are testing positive every day, says the Railway Board Chairman Suneet Sharma, according to the Indian Express. The Railways is one of the largest employers in the country with over 13 lakh employees. Now, Mr. Sharma has also been quoted saying the railway is no different from a state or a territory. We're also getting COVID cases. We have our hospitals. We have augmented beds. We've built oxygen plants in rail hospitals. As of now, 4,000 beds are occupied by staff and their family members, he said. A quick look at restrictions being announced by various state governments. Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi are extending restrictions until the 17th of May. Haryana has banned gatherings of more than 11 people, including weddings and funerals. The state of Haryana reported 13,000 cases and 151 deaths. Uttar Pradesh has extended its partial lockdown until the 17th. Only essential services allowed. Delhi's metro service would be suspended. Weddings need to be held at home or in the courts with no more than 20 people. Delhi reported 13,000 cases, 273 deaths in the last 24 hours. Well, inspired by Mumbai's model of tackling COVID, the Karnataka government has issued directives to the city of Bangalore to set up ward, decentralized triage and emergency response committees for COVID management in all 198 wards. According to the Revenue Department's Principal Secretary N. Manjunath Prasad, this will help in decentralizing and providing better supervision at the ward level for COVID governance. In other news away from COVID, the Delhi High Court today granted 3 weeks interim bail to Pinjra Tod activist Natasha Narwal to perform her father's last rites. Natasha Narwal is currently in Tihar prison, where she has been for over a year, where she was accused in the Delhi riots case. She was one of the people who was part of the anti-CAA protests. She was accused under UAPA, alleging that the anti-CAA protests were organized by her and were a conspiracy to start communal riots. She had earlier applied for bail to meet her ailing father, but her bail hearing was posted and was delayed, and her father passed away in the meantime before she could meet him. An FIR has been registered against 6 people for an alleged gang rape of a 25-year-old woman who had joined the farmer protest at the Tikri border last month, according to the Indian Express. The woman passed away due to COVID on the 30th of April. The FIR was registered under various sections of the IPC, including gang rape. According to the police, again quoted by the Indian Express, they received a complaint from the woman's father, who had alleged that she was travelling with the accused people associated with the Kisan Social Army and had left West Bengal with the group back on the 10th of April. The police say on the 25th of April she fell sick and was admitted to a private hospital where she was undergoing treatment for COVID, and she succumbed to the infection on the 30th of April. A special investigating team has been formed to conduct the probe into the matter. The Samyukt Kisan Morcha, the organizers of the Kisan protest, have made a statement saying the accused were barred from participating in the movement. A public appeal was issued for their social boycott. The Kisan Morcha has made it clear that the Kisan Social Army was never an authorized social media voice of theirs, and none of the handles have anything to do with the movement, end quote. Taking a look now at news coming in from the world of business. After West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee requested a tax exemption for all COVID-related medicines and equipment, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has responded and defended GST on these items. Now, the Finance Minister has said that starting the 3rd of May, remdesivir injections, the API, the chemicals that are required for this drug have been made free of duty, which is duty is what you pay when you import something. Medical oxygen, storage, transportation of medical oxygen, providing oxygen therapy, all of that equipment is also made duty free since the 3rd of May. But she said as far as GST is concerned, which is what you pay when you buy something locally, domestically in India, she said 5% on vaccines, 12% on COVID drugs and oxygen concentrators is applicable to domestic supplies and commercial import of these items. She also said if integrated GST of 100 is collected on an item, about 70 rupees and 50 paisa goes to the state governments. Nirmala Sitharaman also argued that a full GST exemption, if were given, domestic producers would not be able to claim the input tax credit on the same. Taking a look now at news coming in from across the world. Interestingly, as a precautionary measure, China is all set to put up a line of separation at the summit of Mount Everest to prevent climbers who are coming in from Nepal to cross onto the other side of Tibet so that they don't take COVID onto the other side. This comes after Everest Base Camp in Nepal has been infected with COVID and several cases over the last year. It's of course unclear how exactly the line of separation will be implemented between the two regions. Taking a look now at the world of sports, Bengaluru FC has been asked by the Maldives sports minister to leave the country immediately after players were seen flouting COVID protocol. Sports Minister of Maldives, Ahmed Malouf, has said unacceptable behaviour from Bengaluru FC, breaching strict guidelines from Health Protection Agency and the Asian Football Confederation. The club should leave Maldives immediately as we cannot entertain this act. We've honoured the commitment we gave a few months back, even with the surge of cases and pressure from the public, end quote. One piece of positive news before we leave you for the day. A handful of love, which is the tagline of the Trans Community Kitchen in Chennai. The kitchen came up to help people stranded on the road without access to free or affordable food at these times. The team has 12 trans women, and they took this initiative when they saw pavement dwellers who were struggling without even a glass of water. Saundarya, who's part of the team, said, "We know what it is like to be deprived of something, so nobody better than us to empathize with these needy people." The team is grateful that a few good Samaritans have been pitching in with funds to keep the initiative going. That's a wrap on the news right now. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can find details of this story at the bottom of the video on our YouTube page. Do subscribe to our YouTube page and follow the content that we put up. Thanks for watching. Good night.